What's going on, everybody? How y'all doing? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It is currently 10:30 a.m. or 10 to 11 p.m. Sorry. Um, we are sitting down for probably almost the first time today. It's been a bit of a on your feet kind of day, and I just wanted to check in. It's probably the first VOD in a while that'll go live. Again, I just wanted to record what today was. And today was nothing less than a roller coaster. I can't put it any other way, can't describe it in any other fashion. We started off this morning fairly early, super early actually, at about 5:30 a.m. But somewhere between there because at this point I'm not counting. Um, and we got ready for work like any normal day. Not any normal day. This isn't normal. Got ready to work, start, and we drove to work. Historically speaking, when I find myself super at ease while I'm driving, I'm focusing on other tasks that I don't need to really provide too much brain power to. Obviously, make sure you're doing the speed limit, not hitting other cars. Pretty much like a recipe for success, and also paying attention to what other people are doing. The hardest thing you'll ever do. And I had this. I was probably about halfway through driving to work, and I had this sort of, I'll call it a moment, where there was a. I'd sort of been thinking about the position I'm in. So the long and short of it is, a few weeks ago, I was stood down for my position. Previous to that, I'd worked for a company for 5 or so years post me graduating from university, and I was there for a few years. I was working my bum off to make a career. Again, what I found throughout that period was my mental state was absolutely trash. I wasn't doing what I was doing. I had this forever longing need that I'd gone through university. I'd spent 3 years of my life racked up, I don't know what sort of debt, and I still have that sort of debt. And I wasn't using any of that. I wasn't fulfilling what I could be doing. So the opportunity came for me to leave and part ways, and we did. We made that jump and choice, and that was again probably one of the tougher things I've ever had to come across and do in my life, 100% of the time. Um, we moved on from that role. Had a few months where I was trying to find a job, working on my stuff, doing streaming, doing content creation, that sort of thing. Again, still with this forever longing need that I wanted to be doing software development, building stuff, working on code bases because I'm a tech guy and I love doing tech things. And that sort of dragged on. I was successful in landing a job in or like where I live. Again, very much so where I live, tech jobs aren't a thing. There just isn't the sort of work that's around down south or in bigger cities. So landing something is quite challenging. So I was lucky enough to get myself into a position. I worked my way past when we had the wedding late last year. Continued to work through. Got the opportunity to actually start doing software development within the company. Again, was in a happy place. Was doing what I wanted to do. Was really in sort of was starting to get my stride. I was coming home and sleeping at night because I just wasn't in a bad place. And then the last few weeks happened. Like again, the impact it's had, or like the impact good old Rona has had on me is quite small. It's been insignificant, and I'm super blessed, happy, and like privileged. Not privileged because that's a bad word to use, but I'm very much of the understanding that it could be worse. And for a lot of people, that is everyday life now. That is what is happening. We've been quite lucky and fortunate where we are to not have a widespread of cases, especially with a newborn in the family. So I'm again counting blessings, whatever I've done. But I've ended up in this position where we've been stood down from that role. Again, the dream sort of role that I've been holding on to, looking for the last few years. It's been always out of grasp, but I was there, I was working it, I was putting in hours to get better and move forward and do all the rest of the stuff. And that got pulled out from under my feet. And then it was, oh, we'll do this, or like, here's an option. I'm like, well, that's not really going to be too helpful for me. I need some form of, some sort of confidence behind what's happening. I have a family. I need to put food on the table, right? And there was, we continued on. But this is where the interesting part comes along. I then was reached out to by people I used to work with, who had reached out and said, hey, we obviously are looking for people. We're putting on a heap of people to backfill to help us out in this time. Would you be happy in coming back? And I had to think about it. And at that point, I really didn't have too much to go by. I didn't really have too much to work on or work with. So I went for that role. I was successful. I've started training. I'm in my second week. And then today happens. So we're in today. We've just had this profound moment as I'm driving to this job, to do training, for me to start helping this company out and start helping this business out. And I was driving to work, again, very much deep in thought, very much of a working out what is next, what I'm doing, and what's happening. And I started to think about what sort of game I'm playing. And when I say game, I mean figuratively speaking. What am I doing? Like, what am I doing day to day? What am I doing as a job? What am I doing as a person? What sort of influence am I leaving in, like, the time that I'm here for? And it was, again, I've had a few of these moments, and they're kind of rare. Not rare. I feel like they happen quite a lot, but again, it comes down to the day and the situation I'm in. And this was a real kicker for me. It was the thing that probably I needed this morning to really sort of set me up and kick me off. And looking back at it now, and I was probably focused in the wrong areas. And it was very much I was driving along, trying to determine, in as many words, what and how I was going to, instead of playing the short game, which is, how do I find the next job? How do I go about doing whatever I need to do? How do I get somebody to give me a shot at working for them and show them what I'm made of? Because if you talk to anybody I've worked with, well, they've only ever said good things, unless they're all lying to me. Let's hope not. And like, focusing all my attention on what I'm doing, like, in the day to day, and how I'm going about it, and what I'm actually doing. Because don't get me wrong, helping people out, fixing their problems from a technical perspective, fixes their problems for today, gets them a little bit of reward, and then 2 hours after, 3 hours after you're fixing them, they're probably not holding on to that. Unless you go above, beyond, and everything else, you might get 2 to 3 days, and then it's back to operation as usual. Need to move on with our lives. And again, you can touch a few people as you go along. But I'm almost at the point now, or I'm at the verge, I would like to say, of wanting to move past 2 to 3 days. How do you get someone from you're sort of in the moment, or in the 2 or 3 days after you touch point with them, talk to them, so on and so forth? How do you get past that and move to a month, 6 months, 12 months, let's say 5 years? how do you sort of influence that, and then what sort of, I don't want to call it a legacy, but that's kind of what it is. Like, what's the name that you leave for yourself when this is all over in 10 years' time? When someone goes, "Who are you and what did you do?" and you go, "Really, I didn't really do too much. I was cool. I did all these cool and awesome things, but they were only." But the impact they had was very short term, short range, with no long term reaching impact. Again, I could be looking at this wrong. This is just me working through how I was feeling at the time, and it made me realize that, okay, you need to stop sitting on your ass and actually start doing stuff. And showing the world who you are, putting the effort in. Doesn't matter what, like, when you find something that you're passionate about, it's about doing that thing and going and pushing through whatever you may do. And I think for me, I can talk about is I've been scared to show who I am, which is weird when you think about it, like who I am as a person, or like what I'm doing. Like, I'm hesitant to post on Facebook about how I feel. Like, what? Come again? Like, um, and that's actually pretty bad when you talk about it. Not bad. That was more being honest with me. So that was the start of my day. So moving through the day, it just gets better and better. Um, all I can say is some people suck, and that's the real truth of it all. Doesn't matter whether these people are friends, family, colleagues, people you walk down the street, anything else. Um, they suck. Again, some people are purely just out for themselves. And if, again, there's difference between being selfish and selfless, and it's not, those two aren't mutually exclusive. You can be in some like form of the word selfish and take and do what's right for you, where still being selfless in the act. I think people treat them as polar opposites. They're one extreme or the other. You're either completely selfless or you're completely selfish. And there's, I think if life teaches you anything, it's you're sometimes, like, there will be moments during your day where you are completely and utterly selfless, but then there might be, you switch that around 5 minutes later and you're being like selfish in the way you're acting. Being selfish doesn't automatically make you rude, and being selfless doesn't always mean being virtuous or right or whatever you want to call it, like that positive sort of being. I think there's more to the balance and the scale than whether you're a polar opposite in either good or evil or selfless and selfish. Um, and that's sadly how it is. There were comments made just regardless anywhere, that I was like, cool, like it really does show your character, and who you are. Some people might find you on the surface as being really cool, lovable, enjoyable, interactable, everything else. But really, like that's potentially more than likely just an act. Sadly, in the grand scheme of things, that's what it is. A lot of it is an act. That's cool. Like, you do you, fam. Like, whether you're aware enough to pick that up, go for it. Don't care. Um, but that actually got under my skin today, and there was a few moments there where I had to bite my tongue and not say anything and walk away. Um, and I just think sadly it's annoying. Um, I keep saying but it's getting to you at the moment. It's fine. So close, caught myself. It's fine. Said not That's fine. So that's sort of the start of today, and that happened all within about 45 minutes to an hour. I was in a ticked off mood, um, And then we just, again, today was a roller coaster. So I went from super positive, super high, motivated, all the rest of it, to that sort of jolted me a little, brought me back down a little bit, not to earth, like not didn't ground me, it just made me more and more upset and angry. But we then moved through the day again, work day, seems fine, it's all going well, and then just the next thing just goes and bugs me, which is you don't get told the whole truth a lot of the time. And again, coming back to people being people, to me, the thing that gets to me the most is you try super hard, you do what you can to help somebody else and what's going on, and then they give you the short end of the stick, and I go, cool, like that's cool, like thanks, like just leave me in the gutter. Um, so I found out through multiple different people. Again, Chinese whispers could be the same thing, but we'll call them a reputable source. Goes, this is what's been going on. And I'm like, okay, well that's cool because that was never told to me. Sweet, awesome, like on like okay. And it just made me mad because that wasn't what came out of someone's mouth when I asked about it. It was no. Okay, cool. Like that's fine. Like whatever. So the fact that I got told no, then 2 seconds later, on the sneaky covert, they did exactly the same thing. I'm like, well, come again. Like, the only thing I will ever ask of people is to be honest. So, always, if you go down below, either hit subscribe, wherever that button is. I think it's down here somewhere. Down there. Probably could have stuck arrows in post-production, but, you know. I want this to be a raw, unedited clip and vid and VOD. Or leave some comments down below. Tell me what you think could work. Tell me what you think might not work. Let's see what truth there is, and let's move on that. So it's just been a day. And that's a thing. So plus, not to mention, I think the compounding problem that I have at the moment is me being back where I started. I've gone through this cycle of I worked really hard for to try and make a career. Sacrificed a whole lot, gave up a lot of opportunity for people around me, and also what I thought I could have made a career out of, while battling the problems that I had on the side, where I felt like I wasn't living up to my expectation. I wasn't living up to what I'd studied to do. I wasn't using any of those skills, knowledge, and everything that I'd learnt during that time, and that bit of paper on the wall was just, again, a bit of paper. It didn't define me, it didn't give me a leg up, it didn't give me anything. It did, like, I wasn't even working in the field that I'd studied. And for me, that was a problem. Like, it was a well, not, I say problem, it was more of an obstacle for me emotionally and mentally to handle, because I felt like I'd failed. And that's it. Like, I had failed. I'd studied, I'd gone into debt, I'd done everything to come out the other side as if I'd walked in. And I'm like, well, you'd hope and expect me to come out better, stronger, wiser, smarter, all the rest of it. And that was a true moment. So today's been a day. It's been a very rough day. So if there's one thing that I learned, there was this overall meaning I was trying to come into this VOD with, and I hadn't quite figured out what it was. And I will do better for next time. I'll do better at vlogging, where there's this general theme that I want to portray in these. And the big thing that I want to portray, like to come across to you guys and ask as a massive question, is what are you doing to what sort of game are you playing as yourself? Not to play games with people, to play cat and mouse with someone, lead someone on, so on and so forth. So I want to know what you're doing personally to make sure that you're not making, like, you're not playing the short game when you could be doing steps to play a longer game, where you could be planning 5 years in advance, where you could be planning a year in advance, or even just 2 weeks in advance. It doesn't need to be a 10-15 year plan. It could be 2 weeks on the trot. Let's go for a run every day. Like, okay, like that's fine. But whether you're short game, long game, medium term, whatever you're doing, make sure that you're doing what's best for you. And that's it in a nutshell. There is nothing else. It's whatever makes you happy. And if something isn't making you happy, you need to stand up and figure out what that is. And figure out what your passion is, what it is, and all the rest. Because really, if you look back, unfortunately the only one who you can blame is you. And that's called taking accountability for what you're doing. And for who you are as a person. So, there's one thing I could leave you off on today, and I'll call it the quote of the video. If you fail, it's all on you. And that is most simply the best piece of advice I could ever give. Outside of finding the victories in your losses. Make sure that you are consistently losing, you are consistently learning, and you are taking learnings from those losses. Actually, I now remember what that was. Hold on. We are not wrapping up this vlog yet. There is a topic in my brain that I wanted to cover. So where was I? I want to recollect where I was in the moment, so then I can tell you what is going on. So I was in the supermarket. So we're doing the shopping. So I was, again, conversation, I was in my head, I was doing everything. I was walking around, we're almost finished. We were walking up to put our stuff on the little conveyor belt. I was planning in my head how I was going to map these things out, and in the back of my brain as I was approaching, I had this thing pop into my head, and I said, why me? Let's just let that sink in for a second. I was asking myself, like, why me? Like, why am I going through this? Like, why does this happen to me, or why is this happening to me? And I thought this morning's thought was profound, and then this happened. I went, well, it's not just happening to me. Like, it's not, I'm not trying to push it off, like, negate the fact that there was this feeling. It was, why me? And I was like, what? Like, I've been for the last few weeks, I've been quite positive about how I approached this situation. And there was today that was I would say was pretty close to breaking me. To be honest, like I've had a shocker. It's been one of those days. And it's been that moment there where I asked myself, like, oh, why me? Like, why is this happening to me? Why is this always happening to me? Like, I'm back where I was, square one. I'm back getting declined, not getting a word in, trying to get my foot in the door. And that's where I'm at. Like, it's purely a, like, what did you do? Like, why is this happening to you or to me? And that was a heavy thought for walking around the supermarket. I'm over here to try and get me toilet paper. And I'm over here, and then, or like, Billy that we walk past is trying to get his toilet paper for the first time in 12 weeks, and I'm over here having wouldn't call it a midlife crisis, but a moment to myself where I'm going, why is all the bad shit happening to me? I'm now giggling about it, but it's in a nutshell, I'll explain the reason why I was laughing at myself for saying why me is because that's not the mindset I want to be in. I want to be in the mindset in the moment, which I was a few minutes afterwards. I kind of slapped myself awake and went, "Dude, come on now, wake up." And the question I asked myself, why is this happening for me? Like this, like life is happening for me right now, and there's some big changes happening, and there will be big changes happening all the time, and they will be consistently happening. We have a kid. That's it. That's like one of the biggest life things to ever happen. I would say it's probably the biggest life thing to ever happen to anybody is having a child, whether it be your own, whether it be adopted, whether it be a family member's, so on and so forth. That there is this dependent child who needs you, who is dependent on you to survive, to prosper, to develop. And that's one of the biggest things that you will ever come across as a person. Fine, you might have a colleague that you need to train, you might need to mentor, but we're physically talking about another human being, another organism that's in front of you that is dependent on you and what you do. And that's one of like the biggest things. And I think that at the moment, life throws you some curveballs, and it will continue to throw me curveballs. There'll be some straight down the line ones that I dink over, like over the top there for a homer, but there'll be balls that get straight past me. Baseball reference, never played baseball in my life, but I get the gist of it. And that was something that really did hit home for me, and I was like, I'm sitting here being the victim when I'm not the victim. I'm going to take this in my stride. I'm going to work through this, learn from it, and figure out what I want to do as a person. And there's been something I've toying with, and I've probably mentioned it a few times during this vlog. It's the purpose that we all have in life, or what we're all about, or what we want to achieve. And for me, there's something that I've always wanted to do, which is help people. So if there was one thing that I found I was really good at a fairly young age when I first started talking to girls, and it was fussy and all the rest of it, was I used to sit there and listen. If I could do one thing, it would be listen. And it would be me putting myself in their shoes and me trying to help them. I wasn't a psychologist. I wasn't a whatever they're called, psychiatrist. There we go, my brain. I wasn't one of those. I didn't understand how that all worked in like human body, in adolescence, in anything else. And it was something I really, really did focus on, which was learning to listen, learning to understand their triggers, learning to understand how they typed when they were certain, sort of like in a certain mood or a certain way. And I used to take that as not gospel, but I used to figure out what was going on. And no, that wasn't just like smiley faces, winky faces, exclamation marks out the wazoo. It wasn't like capital letters when they were angry. It was verbal tics and speeches. And I would sit there without realizing, I would analyze it, I would do whatever, and then I would try and be empathetic and put myself in their shoes. Again, detrimental if you don't do it properly, but I did that to the best of my knowledge and extent, and for probably the longest period of time, that's all I've ever wanted. For like to have reciprocated, is someone understand when I'm in a position where I clam up, or I don't talk, or I do something that shows that like there's been an emotion triggering me. And that's probably one of the biggest things that I want to do and I want to leave. And if I can listen to one person a day, or if I can jump on stream and I can listen to somebody about like talk about their day, whether it be good, bad, ugly, it was inappropriate, they're having a rough day, they're doing whatever, they're going through a moment in time where they feel like they're alone and that there is nobody there like at all, I want to be there in some form or another, whether that be this vlog in 10 years, someone comes across it and goes, I just listened to that for half an hour and my life, and not my life has changed, but like, I get that. I resonate with what is happening there. I know I know how that feels. And there's that moment of connection, whether that be me just talking to myself and me reconnecting with myself, or whether what I'm saying connects with you, the person listening. If you're listening right now, go for gold. But like, if you get what I mean, it's about showing people that no matter what, there will always be someone there to listen. And in this day and age where technology is completely and utterly advancing non-stop continuously, that will only ever get easier and easier for you and for us and all of us. So if there's one thing that I want to do, there's probably multiple things I want to do. I want to double down on this and what I'm doing. Still continue to try and find ways to implement technology and who I am and what I'm doing as a piece of me. Still continue to play games because I love video games. I love playing them. I love playing with people. I love doing what I need to do. Clapping heads, doing whatever, capturing objectives, gearing up, looking cool, you name it. I love doing it. So I want to use that as a leverage to get and meet new people and play games with people and laugh and jump up and down and be silly and have those nights where you can go 12 hours without even realizing what is going on. But then also sit down and have a conversation with someone, whether that be online through chat, whether that be through a Discord channel, whether that be through a Skype call, whether that be through whatever, and even just to the point of just listening. Even having the conversation. And I think that's one of the biggest things that we could do. So if you're listening to this, I'll probably snip this out and I'll put it in a clip for you guys. But if there's one thing you could do to change somebody's day, is just listen. That person who's acting out on social media, who's calling someone a name, someone this, someone that, fire, like fighting fire with fire doesn't work. Doing the same thing back isn't going to teach anybody anything. Listen to what their problem is, figure out what their actual problem is, and then maybe we can actually be part of a solution rather than just each side going at it again and again and again and again. Because otherwise, we keep going, guess what? We're going to be more separated than what we were when we were fighting each other in world wars. I really do appreciate every single one of you for listening this far, coming this far, doing whatever you need to do in your day to be who you are and what you are all about. I really do love all of you. Peace out. Make sure you do click that subscribe button. Again, this way, that way, wherever you are. You might be on mobile, so it might be there, I think. And then PC's like, again, same place. So consistency is key, but we're going to peace out. You'll have a great night. And we're going to catch you guys later. I don't know when we're going to catch you, but this is going to go live. We're going to head on out. Hope you all have a great evening and a peace out.